Prime Minister, thank you for joining us today on GB News.
Not at all.
Bad news for those concerned about household energy bills going up by 0.2% fractionally next year, £3 annually. They're heading in the wrong direction. Bad news for the cost of living crisis. Why don't you allow more oil and gas licenses in the North Sea to bring bills down, give us more cheaper oil and gas?
Well, I'm very aware energy bills are too high. And if there's one issue, I think, for your viewers and for families and communities across the country, above all else, is the cost of living. And that's why, in the long term, renewables is the way forward. That will give us security and lower bills. In the meantime, it falls to government to provide support. Last year, we put in a discount of £150 on bills for 3 million households. I'm glad that we're able to extend that this winter to 6 million households to put that support in. But we must do other things as well to bear down on the cost of living. Yesterday, I was announcing the further rollout of free breakfast clubs, which is very important for parents and carers. We've also got the capping of prescription charges, the capping of bus fares, free school meals, free childcare. All these measures are important in their own right, but they're all important together because I'm very, very clear about the cost of living being the number one priority for the government because it's the number one issue for so many people across the country.
Last night you called Nigel Farage spineless twice over his lack of condemnation in your eyes of Sarah Potin's remarks. Why won't he? I mean, do you think he's racist?
Well, look.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living. And maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind. The more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
He's got an MP who says that I think she said she's fed up with seeing black and Asian faces on the television. That is a shocking and racist thing to say. And Nigel Farage has done nothing about it.
Is that because he's racist then?
But in addition to that, the news is coming through today about the prison sentence handed down to the ex-leader of Reform in Wales, over 10 years for pro-Russian bribes. I think Nigel Farage needs to immediately launch an investigation into his party. How did that happen? And what other pro-Russian links are there between Reform and all of his members and people?
Is he fit to be PM?
Look, anybody who fails to call out racism, anyone who is pro-Russia is not fit to lead our country. But he must start that investigation. This is a serious prison sentence, 10 years for that involvement, with pro-Russian bribes. He needs to launch an investigation. How did that happen in his party? And what other links are there in his party?
What's going on with China? Will you grant permission for their embassy in the city, despite the concerns that MI5 have expressed?
Well, so far as the embassy is concerned, that's a process, quasi-judicial, which means it's taken independently, and there's a date set for that. The general approach is to cooperate where we can, but challenge where we must. And you saw last week the robust statement that we put out about MI5 and the absolute determination that this government has to protect our interests and that'll always be our first priority.
Siobhan Mahmood has said she's looking at a big increase in payments for migrants to return voluntarily. This could be many thousands of pounds. Why is that justified, paying them voluntarily to leave here?
Well, this is a pilot to see whether we can increase the number of people who are returning to their country. But what the Home Secretary set out this week was a very comprehensive and robust package which deals with what we call the pull factors,
yes,
which are factors that make it more likely that people might come to the United Kingdom.
But it's worth paying more to make it work?
Well, we need to do three things. We need to work with law enforcement in other countries to stop people coming in the first place who shouldn't be here. We need to return people who shouldn't be here as quickly as possible. I'm really pleased that this government's done more returns of people who shouldn't be here, probably the highest number for the best part of 10 years. But we also need to address what are the features of our system that are making it a place that people want to come to, whilst of course keeping with the principle that where people are genuinely fleeing persecution, then of course we're a compassionate country.
Of course. But on the budget next week, you may be freezing income tax thresholds. The Chancellor said that wouldn't happen or wouldn't be extended on 2028 last year at the budget. How is that fair to working people? Will have nurses drawn into the higher rate of income tax?
Well, we will set out the budget in just a few days' time. But the principles are clear. It'll be a Labour budget with Labour values. That means it will be fair, and it will do three things, or three principles. One is protecting our public services, including, of course, the NHS, where we put record investment in and waiting lists are going down. We'll make sure that we're cutting the debt, vitally important for our country, and that we're bearing down on the cost of living, which, for all your viewers, I don't doubt is going to be the number one issue. So they're the principles that we'll take into the budget. It is important that we make the right choices against the background of, going back to the 2008 crash. People haven't felt better off. And then we had austerity, which destroyed our public services. We had a botched Brexit deal, which damaged our economy. Then, of course, we ran into COVID and we got the conflict in Ukraine. Against that backdrop, we must take the right decision. I'm optimistic about the future of the country, but it falls to us to make the right decision.
Of course, you established the grooming gangs inquiry in July. It's nearly Christmas, no chair. Victims are upset about that, not surprisingly. When will they get a chair of this inquiry?
Well, we're working to get a chair as soon as we can. It's important.
Weeks away? Months away?
It's important we get it right. As you will know, in inquiries like this, it's important that victims and survivors have faith and confidence in the chair. I would say what I very often say in these cases, that where there's evidence that can lead to a criminal investigation, it is right, and I will always support the criminal route, because my strong view is that if enough evidence to put someone before a criminal court, that should always be the first port of call.
Yes. And just finally, on your future, you said in the Daily Mirror this week, you'll fight the next general election. If you win, will you serve a full second term?
Yes, I've always said this is a decade of national renewal. I know that we're elected on a mandate of change. That change is bearing down on the cost of living. Do people feel better off? It's making sure our public services are turned around, and our NHS in particular, and people feel safe and secure in their community. I'll be judged on that at the next election, quite rightly, by the electorate, and every day that is what I focus on.
Prime Minister, thank you for joining us today on GB News in a very stormy
It is a bit stormy.
South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.